Hey y'all, how's it going? Happy Friday. Happy Friday happy hour. Cheers to you. What's up, Ryan Warner Codes? I see you there in the chat. Thanks for coming to hang out. Just let me move this mic a little bit. Let me know how that sounds. Hey, what's up, Brecht? No, yeah, Ryan, it's just a same mic. I just, instead of having it on the table mount, I now have it on a Rode arm with a blue shock mount around it. So yeah, let me know how the mix sounds because it's in a new spot. Yeah, and today, as you can tell by the title, sorry, I'm just setting some stuff up. I now am controlling Streamlabs from my phone right here. New superpower. Oh, what's up, Dom? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Happy Friday. All right. So yeah, last few streams we've been working on a NPM package I created called react-livestream, which embeds your stream in your site. So actually, let's see. Oh, maybe I didn't deploy it yet, but I actually set this up in my site recently, only to find out that Twitch is now changing their API. So it seems to authenticate, essentially. We're going to have to use a serverless function because they only will be accepting server-to-server auth. No longer can we do it straight from the client side. So that we were doing it in our little React component, which I'll open here. But we can't do it anymore. Yeah, Dom, I played around with Netlify Dev and serverless when I was doing some stuff for the Party Corgi mixer alert bot. And yeah, I found it super easy. So I have a general idea of what I want to do here, and I'm hoping this goes well. So let's see. And yeah, I saw your hook stuff, Dom. It's funny because I was saying to my wife earlier that I actually started doing like a proof of concept project at work as well about creating a set of hooks for Fauna. So it's still very much a proof of concept, but it's cool that we're on the same page. Hoping to abstract some of the query language away from the user if possible. And right now my idea is just like, let's just prove out some basic use cases. Okay. So we do have react-livestream here. It's not showing up on my site, so I'm not 100% sure that I actually have it. Twitch client ID and Twitch username prop. Okay, so apparently it's not working, even though I set it up recently. But that's not what we're worried about today. We're more worried about these functions. So let's go to the Netlify documentation, because my site is a Gatsby site that is deployed on Netlify. So it should be pretty easy for us to add these functions. And from what I understand, we basically just have to add a functions folder and a Netlify toml file, which will act as our configuration. And between those, we should be able to handle it. Yeah, Dom, I'd love to do that. That'd be dope. I use Cloudinary for my Open Graph images, so I'd be happy to, if it's possible, use the hooks for some of that stuff too. Yeah, cool. All right, so let's go back to the Netlify. So we basically want to take a look at the docs and just look at the function stuff. Overview. Okay, so we want to configure and deploy functions. So yeah, exactly. We need to get started, we have to set up a functions folder. And then we need to tell Netlify, hey, that's where our serverless functions live when we deploy. So let me actually go into my Netlify account. Sign out. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Email. When you use Netlify at home and at work, the lines get blurred. All right, cool. So here in the domain settings, I think we could actually just define this here and say, hey, this is where our folder is. But I actually want to do this in a toml file, which is how Netlify does their configurations, because there's probably other stuff we're going to need to add here in the future. Oh, Dom, that sounds really cool. Yeah, so that's sort of, it's interesting that your hook for Open Graph Images is going to use a serverless function as well, because that's sort of where I've had to land as well. Ryan, that's awesome. Thank you for including me. I'm proud to have it on there. So hopefully we can get this working. So first thing, let's do like they said, and sorry about the switching between the windows. I don't have I have to scale my monitor for the stream. So let's get create branch, set up functions. So GCB is just an alias I have. We're just creating a new Git branch here. And we want to do, we want to create a functions folder. And I did take, because that's a ZSH thing. And that essentially what that does is it makes a directory and then moves you into it. So now you can see we're actually inside of the functions folder. I just need to check. I forget if each function needs its own directory or if it's just a set of JavaScript scripts within the directory. Because I think serverless, you have to have a function nested within a subdirectory. The way I'm seeing it is to create functions, like create Twitter template that creates an image in your Cloudinary, then use the image, can run, edit social template input. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, Ryan, I was actually I was thinking like the two of you definitely have some chatting to do, because with your insight into how you need to format and build out the graphics and Dom's hooks that he's building with the Cloudinary stuff, you could potentially cover all the bases that you have in your Figma thing, right? Yeah, link to it. But it'd be cool because I think your insight into what formats there are and what sizes they need to be, resolution, format, file format, all that would probably be pretty helpful. Okay. And then another thing we need to do now, so we've created this functions folder. I'm actually going to go back up a directory and I'm going to create a Netlify toml. And so this is a configuration file that defines stuff going on in Netlify essentially. And we'll pull up the docs for that as well. I was actually looking at this for work the other day, so I have a reasonable idea here. Config. File-based configuration, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so basically Netlify configures build settings, deploy settings, environment variables. And so this is, just to note, there's a difference here between what we're gonna do here and a traditional environment variable. These Netlify toml files usually are checked into Git, so you don't want to put any sensitive API information in here. Instead, you probably still want to keep that in an environment file and keep that in your Git ignore. But these variables that you're establishing will be used in the build process on Netlify. So you can add these in their UI, or you can add it in this config file. But I would say if you have like an API key that you're using in one of your Netlify functions or something like that, you'd probably want to put it in the UI so that anyone who is cloning your repo or whatever, their toml file that they have in the fork will not have that information. Cool. All right, so let's take a look real quick at what we have. So basically, these build settings sort of map to this config here. So base is the directory where you start the build. Then you can choose a directory to output. And you also have a build command, because like if you're running different types of apps, you're gonna want to like run maybe yarn or Gatsby develop versus yarn run start, something like that. What's up, Dota 2? Hey, welcome to the stream. Happy Friday. So yeah, this build key here, as it says, is for global stuff. So we'll want to do that first. And sorry, there we go. So let's open the Toml file and we'll say build. So this is the scope for all of our builds. And there's a way to scope things down for like branch deploys or preview deploys or actual builds. We're not going to get into that today, but we will in the future. Yeah. Okay, Breck, take it easy. Have a good evening. I know it's a lot later there, so enjoy your weekend, my friend. Okay, so back here. So base project, let's see what we have here. So we don't have that set. I don't think we need that. But we do need to set our command, and it's Gatsby build. And we need to set our directory. So that would be, our publish would be the directory that we want to put it in. And right now we have that set to public. And then our command is going to be Gatsby build. And so this actually is not going to control our server. Eventually this Toml file will be used partially by what we're doing with the functions. But this file will actually override the values I have in the UI that you're seeing there. So part of the reason I wanted to do this is because it'll actually unify stuff, the Netlify configuration for my site, and it'll be controlled, or not controlled, tracked within Git. And so public, we want to do, I believe it's just public. Yes, it is. Cool. So that's good. And then functions. So for us, it would just be functions. Let's add that. Okay. So let's just say we add Netlify config file. Cool. Is there anything else? I don't think there's anything else we actually need to add right now. We don't have any build hooks. We don't have any keys. No environment variables set, nothing like that. And these are pretty cool. I'm hoping to leverage these in the future. Essentially hooks to build like integrations regarding your Netlify builds, whether they worked, whether they failed. That'd be cool. All right. Okay, so we did that now. So now let's go back to the functions documentation. So the path of your function directory is relative to the root. So we have functions, the functions directory at the root. And so one thing I noticed that it's not being tracked by Git. It doesn't seem. Let's double check that real quick. So yeah, it's probably just because it's an empty directory. Once we add a file in there, it'll probably show up. But right now, our commit was just the Toml stuff. So cool. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna write JavaScript functions. Maybe in the future we'll do some Go on the stream. I'm considering either Go or maybe Rust, and just picking up like a real server-side language for myself. Maybe build out some fun stuff on my Raspberry Pi or my Arduino. Okay. On deployment, each serverless function can be called from an address relative to the deployed site route. Okay. Add serverless Lambda functions, create a JavaScript file which exports a handler method. The name of the file without the JS extension. Okay. Cool. So we'll add one. So I don't know if we're going to need two functions here or we're going to need one that can handle this, but essentially we need to like authenticate and request information from Twitch. So that might end up being two separate pieces of functionality. But right now we're just going to set it up as one file and then sort of see how far that gets us. So Twitch API, just call it that. And so we need to do a function. Oh, this is server side, so it actually needs to be export modules.handler, something like that. Let's double check that syntax. Yeah, there you go. Exports.handler. So I think we could do something like function handler stuff, and then I think it would be exports equals something like that. I forget. Let's just do it the way they have it. Export.handler. You know what? Let's do that. We'll do this. So we're going to do export.handler equals function event context callback. Cool. And so this is where our logic is actually going to go. It's export. So that's why I was thinking it could be like module.exports equals, and then you could do handler, but it's not the default. I actually wonder if this would work. We can try it because this we're going to run this locally with Netlify Dev, their CLI tool. So I think this might work. Let's see. So event parameters, you provide the callback parameter, which is optional. Okay. So the function receives an event, which has info, and then that's what you use to trigger different logic. Okay, and then context includes information about the context in which it was executed. Yeah, so here's an example of just like a very, I shouldn't say basic, but minimal function. So all it does is it basically, when it gets invoked, it does a callback, but this callback, let's see. Yeah, so this callback's just going to return to us a status code of 200 with a body of hello world. And I'll open my terminal here. And so let me check their docs, but believe we should now be able to trigger this with the Netlify CLI. Yeah, I want to do Netlify Dev is what I want to do, I believe. Because the thing is, Netlify Dev, what it does is it actually spins up like a Netlify-esque production environment. It might even be exactly what their environment is. And then it allows you to invoke these serverless functions locally, so you don't have to deploy stuff and then spend build minutes and time, testing things in production. You can actually test it local. All right. So we have it installed, and we can find that out because we can just run Netlify Dev. Cool. So if we actually open this a little bit more, we can do what, Tom? NTL? Oh, hey, look, my plugin works all of a sudden. That's cool. So yeah, this is what we were working on previously, was building this out. You can even do NTL instead of Netlify. Oh, okay. Are you saying that's the alias to spin? Okay, cool. Yeah, so when we ran this, what we did is we're running Netlify with Gatsby, and now we have our local host running. So this is why it's working now. And basically, I'm going to go to a different page. So Lambda service is listening. So that means that we can now invoke these functions. So we have our app here, right? We have a graphical playground here. So here's our page. Here's our GraphQL playground. Let me refresh that. Ooh, not super mobile friendly or small viewport friendly. Cool. So we have all that. And then what else we got? Cool. Have all that. And let's open the browser. And go back to, so we don't need that anymore. Netlify dev. Let's look at the docs. Gonna open another terminal window. So I already did all this where I'm logged in. So if you're using this for the first time, you're probably gonna need to go through these steps, but I've already done that. I believe. So run builds locally, manual deploys. Let's see, unbundled function deploys. Cool. Invoke function. Dom, what's the, let me see, Netlify help. So Netlify functions, manage functions. Let's see, Netlify functions help. I'm trying to invoke, yeah, so here we go. That's what it is. So basically what I need to do is Netlify functions invoke, and then give it the name. We called it Twitch API. Invoked with emulated, yeah. So that worked. This log is actually here. So if we change this, hello Demetrius, I know he's in chat, and we do that again. Yep. Hello, Demetrius. So, cool. Yeah, no worries, Tom. No worries. I know, like, I've actually been, and maybe Ryan Warner and Dom, you can weigh in here. I don't have polls set up yet in chat. That's something I need to do. I was watching Jeff Fritz earlier, and his chat is just, like, loaded with all sorts of fun stuff. But I was considering trying a new time for the stream. It's easy for me on Fridays because half of my day is sort of like a hack day at work. But for folks getting off work, people at the end of the week, viewers, like, I know it's not the most ideal time. So let's get rid of that. So what do you think? Like, would you watch if I was streaming at a different time? Cool. Okay, so we have all that set up, so I don't think we really need this right now. Oh, cool. So it looks like they have their own tool in addition to Netlify Dev, which I guess is just for this type of stuff. So use Netlify Dev Lambda only if you need a build step for your functions. Ah. Okay, cool. Good to know. So that's something we're going to have to look at in a bit. All right, so let me quickly commit this. So we add functions directory first JS script. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Twitch API, which I had open earlier. Twitch Helix API. Yeah, me too. That's what I tested all of the Mixer bot stuff with, which I still need to finish. I think the only piece, maybe I'll stream that. The only piece I need is to trigger a web request with a GitHub action when a new branch is merged to check and update subscriptions for the folks who stream on Mixer. Okay. So I already have a key. Now, is this the new one? Yes, that's what I need. Okay, so starting in April, at the end of this month, in 20 days, all Helix endpoints will require OAuth. See this announcement for more details. So this is, I think it's like the day after I finished getting react-livestream set up. I saw this, so immediately I have to refactor, but that's okay. That's what the stream's for. So it requires an OAuth across all endpoints, either via an app access token or user access token. The client ID provided in the corresponding header must match the client ID used to generate the OAuth token. Okay. So I have a client ID and a secret. Getting a token. Okay. URLs have been updated to replace Kraken. That's the name of the old Twitch API. Your app does not use a server. This approach does not require a server This approach does not require a server that must make requests to the API. So we want to do, I mean, do we really want to do that? I guess we want to do this implicit code flow, but okay, so when a API request requires authentication, send the access token as a header. This header differs depending on which API you're using. Okay. So it needs a bearer token. But I think the bearer token, if I remember correctly, I think to get an access token, we essentially have to authenticate and get a token that allows us to refresh this access token. And that's why we need a server for this. Let me open I'm going to open this off screen, but I'm going to open the Twitch developer console real quick because I want to see what kind of stuff they have in the UI. If I remember correctly, it's just a client ID that you set up, but there's got to be some sort of OAuth stuff. So Twitch dev console. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so in here, what they have is essentially you have a set of applications that you can have tokens. So I've already created one. So I have a client ID, which is what I use to make API calls. And that's what this is here. But we also need a token. So in this UI, there's a note that says passed. It's for a client secret. It says passed to the token exchange endpoints to obtain a token. You must keep this confidential. So I believe what that is that client secret gets used. So like the client ID we already have, but to get this token, we have to use the client secret to hit an authentication endpoint and then store that somewhere so we can use it. Hey, what's up, Prince? How's it going? Happy Friday to you. We're working on some Netlify functions authentication stuff for Twitch because they changed their API. So in order to have my little NPM package work, I actually need to have a serverless function deployed. So right now I'm trying to just get my head around what sort of stuff we're going to need to do here. We've set up a local function and a Netlify configuration, and using their Netlify dev environment, we're able to invoke it locally and see that it returns our message here. So that works. So we're all set up. But now what we need to do is look into the auth stuff. Okay. So revoking access tokens, sending user access and app access tokens. Okay. So what we're going to need to do here is, it seems, I'm just going to take notes in here. So revoking token. So we're going to need in API calls, we're going to need number one, our access token, and that will be part of our authorization header. And this will be our access token. Oh, hey, what's up, Lucky? How's it going? Another fellow live coder. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for jumping in. So for what I'm doing, I can use an app access token as you are using the stream's endpoint. I am, yeah. So does that mean I can set up a like sort of token that exists in perpetuity, or do I still need to request or refresh that every so often? So let's see. Okay. So we're going to need an auth header, right? Okay. So basically, and so that value would need to be updated every couple months. But it would also need to be stored in a place that every call in my live stream package uses it. Or that's what I'm trying to, like, essentially here, I think I need everyone who wants to use this for Twitch, I think needs to set up a serverless function for this. I don't think that we can hard code or anything like that the access token for use for every user of this application, so to speak. I might be wrong about that, but I've done some auth stuff in the past, but it was in Java and I didn't fully understand all of it. So we already have this, but this is, we're going to need, cool. Okay, so client IDs are public and can be shared. Okay, so I have that in, let's see. Oh, sorry about that. No. Get out of here. So if we go into our index page, you can see we're using my package and we're actually passing in a Twitch client ID. So I guess that's actually, it's okay if it's public. So little did I know. But this is, this is how you would hide your Environment variables, and in Gatsby, you need to prepend them with Gatsby. Yeah, it's the client secrets that are super secret, as the name suggests. So type of tokens, ID tokens, user access tokens, app tokens. So this is what Lucky's talking about. Authenticate your app and allow it to access resources that it owns. Since app access tokens are not associated with a user, they cannot be used with endpoints that require auth. So Streams doesn't, it's a public. Lucky. So app access tokens expire about after 60 days. So you should check that your app access token is valid by submitting a request to the validation endpoint. So maybe, yeah. So would it be potentially that I have a serverless function on a cron job that runs every 59 days to update the access token, and then we store that somewhere for folks to use? App access tokens are meant only for server-to-server API requests. So I guess if billing wasn't a concern, I could potentially route all React live stream requests through the same serverless function. And then just have that token updated every, 60 days. Use that token in the function, make the request. But imagine you have 1 million users who make a request once a day. That would be crazy. So I can't imagine that is how it would go. Okay, so another thing to note is that for auth endpoint for Twitch, it's going to be this. It's going to be the ID subdomain, so that's good to know. URLs have been updated to replace Kraken with... Okay, cool. So the old Kraken API had this syntax or path, and now it's this URL. So my app doesn't use a server, but it feels like we need to add one. Or not a server necessarily, but a serverless function. App access token, user access token, ID token. Okay. Yeah, I was talking to Lucky. I was talking to Kurt Kempel, who got this working on his stream last week, and then once we got it working, we found out about this API change. So we were discussing, like, is there a way to create a package that contains a React application or a React component and some sort of essentially like serverless deploy? I know serverless, the framework, has the idea of components, but I don't think that's really what I'm thinking. Because I'm thinking like, hey, I have this front end piece of code that you're going to use in your React application, but it needs to be supported by this serverless function. So how do we... And I want to make it as easy to use as possible. I don't want people to have to come in and code up their own auth endpoint here. So... yeah, so I guess, Lucky, what it sounds like is I need a serverless function that runs on cron job and every 60 days updates my app token. Then my app, my Gatsby site, the component that I'm using there needs to request a different serverless function that uses the value, the key token that it gets back from the first one. So I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? This is, let's do this. Oh, create the access token on request. Oh, okay, that's part. Okay. So you mean when I request, when I make the request to the endpoint to get the stream information? Oh yeah, I got you. So you're saying every time I make a request to the API, just refresh the token anyway, regardless of how old it is? Cool. So it looks like this is how we create the new. So we basically need to run this request. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, hey, let's get this, let's persist it somewhere that we can use it. So maybe somewhere, I don't know, in Netlify, I'm not really sure. Use it for the course of the 59, 60 days, and then have something refresh it on a timer. But yeah, for right now, let's just do this. Okay. So one thing I'm going to need to do here is I'm actually going to need to move this off screen so I can add a secret so that y'all can't see it. So give me 1 second. So this is going to be Gatsby client, Twitch ID client secret. And then cool. And so we'll do this. And now let me bring this back. Cool. And where's my terminal? So many windows, but such little space. Oh yeah, that's right. Because I'm running it in here. So we can get rid of this. Let's undo that. So just because I changed the environment file, I'm just going to restart the dev server. So what we need to do is we're going to need to do a fetch. It's a post. I always forget. I used to use Axios, but I've been trying to force myself to use fetch lately. So let's do what I do every time. No? Because it's capital. Okay. We're off to a good start here. There we go. Cool. using fetch. This is the one I always look at. Yeah. But I want to do a post. Yeah, so that's what I was looking for. I need to give it some headers, I believe, in the config. Yeah, okay. Cool, so fetch. I'll put in the URL in a second. And then we need to do this. We need headers. So we know we need an auth header. And we need a client ID. Yeah, see, this is exactly what we need. Something like this. Except it's going to be authorization. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. The authorization header is for the actual API call. We'll worry about that later. So we want to do method post. Cool. And then the API endpoint is this. So this is going to give me, this is OAuth, app access tokens. The grant request below requires the client secret to acquire an app access token. Yeah, okay, never in client code. So this, yeah, this is what we want to do. And so we need to either interpolate these, or I wonder if their fetch has like a params type deal in the config. So as a body, mode, methods, cache, headers. Let's see, params. Doesn't look like it. JS fetch API params example. Sorry about that. I think I do that pretty much every stream. Let's look at this. We can just interpolate them into the URL. I'm just thinking that maybe... Yeah, I was wondering if there's something like that. Let's see. Fetch. Request headers. Okay. Body. So methods, headers, body. I don't see anything about params. Yeah, I guess not. All right, we'll just do it manually then. So get out of here, get out of here. We don't need you either, or you. So this is like the API base URL. So I'll just put that up here, cons. So this is the base string, and then we're gonna take that value. We're gonna use some backticks here so we can do some interpolation. Twitch API / token, and then we need to do client ID equals, and yeah, that's right, and separated client secret equals, we'll interpolate that as well. And grant type equals client credentials and scope. Do we optional? Yeah, I don't know if we need that right now, so I'm going to leave it out. Also, I'm hoping, and this might be an incorrect assumption here, but will this serverlet, this Netlify function here, have access to my local environment variables? I have a feeling the answer is no, but let's see. Let's go into our index file. This is the variable for the client ID, which would go here. Prince, it will have access to them. I'm hoping that's what you're saying, and because if it is, that's, yeah. Woo! Ric Flair, woo! Okay, so now we need to do the .then.catch syntax because fetch returns a promise. I promise. Let's just start this way. Catches errors. Console.error, error. Okay, let's try this. So all we're doing here is making a call. And according to the docs, what we should get back is something that looks like this. Yeah, let's try it. So we're going to invoke this local function again. Yeah, sure. Oh, cool. It failed. Function invocation failed, object. Oh. Okay, that's why. I think we need to actually, we need to like do a callback like we had here. And we need to send a body. Post. Okay. Do we need to do this whole res.json thing? Invoked with emulated authentication header. Yeah, I don't think we want to do that. Do we? So it fails. You don't seem to be in a folder. Netlify link. We'll connect this folder to a site on Netlify. But I don't think we want to do that, do we? Sorry about that. Yeah, so Prince, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a request to the Twitch API, and I'm using Netlify dev. So I'm trying to invoke the function locally. Netlify function invoke Twitch API. I get this question about, do you want to emulate identity auth? And I've tried no and yes, both do the same thing, and they basically fail. So then I saw I did Netlify login, which I'm already logged in. However, it's asking if I ran Netlify link. It doesn't appear to be linked to a site. And I'm wondering if I need to link my functions directory to my site on Netlify. That's already deployed on Netlify. go back up to the source file. Yeah. So, yeah. So the function is, I know they have it as like exports dot handler equals function. So maybe that's why, but I think that syntax is essentially the same thing. Nope. Oh, is fetch only client side? I thought it was node as well. Oh boy. Ah, okay. I didn't realize. That's right. I didn't realize it was browser only. Okay, that makes sense. All right, yarn run add node fetch. Good call, Prince. Thank you, sir. Yeah, yeah. It's not really like, I mean, it honestly, it can be hard to give great error messages. One of the first things I did at my new job was we have a set of query functions, and oh, thank you so much, Prince. We have a set of query functions, and if you don't you don't use the right arity, as in you don't pass in the right amount of arguments that the function is expecting, it won't work. So there's a generic error just getting logged out like, hey, you passed 2 arguments to a function that needs 3, but it wouldn't say which one. So we actually went through and fixed that, added a link to documentation next to the error to help folks. So that was a good win. However, I had to make a second PR because what we didn't realize is that in our production or our dev and staging environments, we weren't uglifying the JavaScript. So all the names were right, but once it hit production, it said something like function E takes 3 arguments. You passed it 2. So yeah, fun. Let me look at what Princeton does. Yeah. Yeah, because essentially Prince here, like what it is you can send in the request to the function, you can send query parameters like, for example, your username, your Twitch username, and then that would be available from the event and you can use it for your logic. There's a fetch example. Okay. Oh yeah, query string. I've used that before. Environment variables. Ooh, actually, that looks cleaner. I'm going to do that. Should have done that anyway. And then we'll do... make it a little bit easier to read. Cool. Fetch. Yeah, node fetch. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, sir. Yes. The require syntax. Yeah, I saw. So I was looking at that earlier, Netlify Lambda. So does that essentially compile, or I should say transpile your ES6 function code into like ES5 or something like that? Okay, so you just need to install that install that package, and then when it gets deployed, it runs through that process. Yeah, so we're gonna actually we'll do the CommonJS syntax. And Prince, this is stuff I've been learning a lot about this CommonJS ES module stuff lately from doing my own package, and actually was doing some research at work about it as well. It's interesting. Node fetch. Yep. So yeah, we want to actually and this is always weird to me. It's like I have one dot then to transform it into JSON. Like, could just do whatever. Let's just then. So what we're okay. So they're setting it to. Okay, so they're returning the result of that, or we could do something like, you know, let data. Yeah, right. It's like it comes in, and you can transform it to multiple form. Where was it? Here. Fetch API. Where was it? Yeah, there's another spot where they showed, like, there's other formats too. You might want to. Yeah, here we go. JSON text blob. In your second province. Yeah, so basically what we would want to do then is this. And then this here would return the JSON. And then if we said JSON, okay. Interesting. Oh, yeah, no, it's because this should be that. Incorrect function response body. Oh, sorry, already did that. Incorrect function response body. Oh, does this have to be stringified? Okay, it's returning an empty object. Okay, method post. Okay. Interesting. Incorrect function invocation. Incorrect function response. So it's an async function, but I don't see any use of await, which I would think that you would, if you were going to use an async function, you would want to do that. Data.joke. Let's see. Error. Oh yeah, I also need to do so this would, yeah, I got it. So I think you want to $200 body JSON. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and then instead, I think, yeah, just return it directly. And then we don't even need this callback. Yeah. And you can get rid of it here too. Let's see. And then this we need to take. So we'll log it out anyway, but really what we should do is an error 500. They're doing a 422. I know it's like 400 your error, 500 my error, right? Pardon me, I definitely have not been keeping up with my hydration today. Internal server error. So they're returning unprocessable entity, which is, let's do 418 for right now, and we'll change that later, but that's fun. I'm a little teapot. Yeah, Dan, I don't know, but that's what it says. It says I'm a teapot. And yeah, Prince, that's what I... Oh, okay. I know, yeah, it's like 400 is your fault, 500 is my fault. Or like, that's the server's response when they send you a 400. It means that you made an error. And when they send you a 500 code, that means that they made an error. Or at least that's how I understand it. So... I feel like I've done this type of stuff before and it's worked, so I'm not sure why it's not. The only thing I see different is, so we're basically converting it to JSON, and then we're taking the JSON and we're returning that. What is this syntax? Oh, we're returning, oh, because it's returning inline. String error, okay. I don't know what other format that would be in, but status code. There's an async up here. Not sure that that matters because we're not awaiting, but let's see. isn't my syntax. So, Prince, you're... I don't see anything coming back. Let's check. Let's check in our logs. Oh, cool. That's why I wasn't seeing it, because it's in the wrong spot. Your function response must have a string body. You gave invalid client. Yeah, see, at one point we were getting a promise back because we were returning a promise as the body, which is incorrect. Okay, let's look at these examples again. Return fetch API endpoint. Oh, you're from here? Yes, that... Does that make sense? Let's try it. A different error? That's nice. Lambda response was undefined. Yeah, I think it's because we're not returning anything here. So... Because originally they were doing a callback, but we originally were doing something like this, where we were assigning it, and then these return values would come out, and then we would then return the data. Yeah, sure. And Prince, I'm not sure. I'm wondering if maybe I wonder if it has anything to do with like trying this locally versus in production, or whatever that linking was. Let's see. So it looks like it's sending the request. Your function. Let's try. So this is JSON. Do we have to stringify it to send it over the wire? Yeah, I didn't think so. That's so strange. Incorrect body. Yeah, so it looks like we're never... Oh. Let's see. And yes, this is how I code. What is Twitch expecting from the fetch? Yes. Let's look at that again. So... where is it? App token. So, Prince, this is, let's see. is it? I was just looking at it. How is that the case? This is the same page. Yeah. Okay, here we are. Sorry. So it's expecting a post request to this endpoint, which we have hard-coded up here. Then it needs these. Scopes is optional. So we're doing a query param for client ID, client secret, and client credentials. Because what Lucky was saying earlier was that we should probably use a app token, because then we only need to refresh it like every 60 days. And here's a sample request, which is what ours should look like. Yeah, so we have a client ID, a client secret, and client credentials. We don't have any scopes. We respond with JSON encoded app access token. JSON encoded. Does that mean maybe we don't need to convert it to JSON here? If it's JSON encoded, this usually is when you're turning like a text into a JSON, right? Nope. It's like my third stream in a row or just not really getting anywhere. Body. So we're doing a post and we're getting an error saying incorrect function response body. Is it because we're not sending any body to the wait a second. A equals 1. Is this the query param? Yes, it is, I think. Or no, that's just the body. Yeah. Ooh, what's all this? Oh. So data was a promise because I logged it here. I think that's because it got hoisted. Response. Oh, here we go. It looks like my environment variables are not accessible here, Prince. Ooh, that's not good. That's exactly why. It's not going to work with bad credentials. So, okay. Now I got to see, can Netlify? Oh, do I need to use .env here maybe? And then require the config so that I can read those things? Yeah. Yep. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop using this terminal. I never use this personally. I'm going to go into my other iTurn. And then what we'll do is we'll split it horizontally. Netlify. Ooh. Cool. Okay. So now we can at least see our logs, you know. Digital drummer, yes. Hide my secrets. Oh, yes. You know what? Let's not do these like this. Move session to a... Nope, I want to move it to a new tab. Whatever. Okay, so... yarn, add... in one session, not the other. What do you mean exactly, Prince? Yeah, digital it is. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. I just gotta pause real quick. You know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna do that now. I was gonna try to come up with something, but okay. Yeah, usually digital. What I've been doing is I've been doing stuff off to the side. I have a laptop off to the side where I'm not showing all my stuff. But I've been trying to get a friend of mine to design some slides for the stream, but with everything going on these days, it's hard to push somebody to do anything outside of work because it's understandable that there's a lot going on. So I just need to look this up real quick because I always forget. Okay, and then what we probably need to do is we'll probably need to restart our Netlify dev server. Yeah, so digital, hopefully, yeah, I did, Prince. So all of my environment variables right now are being stored in a .environment file that I have set already. So hopefully we'll be okay. And digital drummer, I think the other day I was on Twitter and I came across your account and was like, that's who that digital drummer, that username is associated with this person. And I forgot exactly. Yes, Justin. I shall be calling you Justin now, sir. Thank you for hopping in the stream. Hey, it looks like my live stream thing works on my site locally. That's cool. Okay, let's get back to it. So this is running. Let's try Netlify functions. I think it's Netlify functions invoke. Sure. Why come? Let me move this out here. I'm just going to keep my logs off the screen in case they do expose some info. But no, they still do not. Let's try that again. Just make sure this is working properly. Yeah, invalid client. Okay. I don't know why before I was able to see the actual request itself. And now I don't seem to see it. I just keep getting invalid client. All right, let me try this over here because this might expose. I'm going to expose the key real quick, or the secret. Yeah, so it seems that it's still not picking up my environment variables. Lame. I feel like this happens to me on every stream, and for those who are often in the chat, you probably feel the same way. Yeah, Prince, I think that might be the case. Yeah, I saw that in some of the documentation. I thought that was sort of like assumed in some cases, but I guess not. Yeah, that's what they have. Yeah, accept. So we'll do headers, accept. Okay, let's try this again. I'm gonna undo this because I don't want to log this out. Or actually I do. Same thing. Yeah, I'm actually using a Gatsby site, ATD, and this is in the context of a serverless function. Okay, okay. Incorrect function body. Maybe. So we were looking at these docs before, and they were doing this. That's the body. Post with form params. Oh, do I need to set the content type? Oh, no worries. It's actually partially for my npm package, so yeah, you're not far off. Form data. It's not form data. These are just like query params. Hold on one second. Is my mic? Yeah, it's on still. Okay. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'd love to read the part we had open and we're using. So, what do you mean, Prince? So this is definitely a login. Still not getting the environment variable. So that's what's going on. Oh, yes. The Twitch documentation, you mean? So basically, we're constructing it right. The problem is that what's going on is our request going out has undefined parameters in the query. And that's because it does not seem to be loading our environment variables. All right, let me look this up. log them without destructuring. Yeah, I can log the client ID. It says can be public on the documentation, so I can log that out. But the secret I cannot. And they're like what I'm seeing is that they're undefined. I don't think so because it's a Gatsby site, but the Netlify functions sort of live like off to the side. Let me see. Yeah, I'm trying to prevent adding them. Oh, yeah, maybe. Yes, it is. Yeah, so originally what we had was... Let's try that. Same deal. Okay. Yeah, I took out that log, so I'm logging it one more time. Yeah, they're still undefined, so it's something with how we're accessing the environment variables. So I have a .m.development. Maybe I need to point it at that specifically. Saw that there was a way to do that. Here we go. Path. Let's do that. Check my Slack DMs. Are they? Is it like you're fired because of the stream? I saw how you code, and it's not pretty. We saw what you're doing, sir, and no. .m.development, which is at the root, and so we need to go up a level. Yeah, because we're that's probably why we're out of the. So we actually need to go up to the root and do that. Come on, work. No. Yeah, Prince, I was originally... I'm the best developer. I can't get one thing working. It's really interesting. Prince, I originally had a .m, but I changed it to .env because I was having trouble with Gatsby reading them for some reason. Yeah, they're still undefined. Cool. Yes. So you're saying just call it .env in general? Oh, thanks, Dan. That's dope. Appreciate that. I think that's the second sub. I think Ryan Warner Coates was the first sub. Showing the love. Oh, you got that little star. I really need to work on my emotes and stuff and for affiliate and all that. All right, so I'm going to restart this development server. Huh. Yeah. Dan is awesome, boss. He's definitely the best one I've had in a long time in this industry and otherwise. Okay, so I have an interesting thing here that I think I can show you real quick. So I don't know if you can see, but look. Overriding the following environment variables with .m file. I think that means that it's picking it up. Let's see what happens. Let me move it over here. Hey, look at that. It worked. Let's see, does our site still work? Localhost 8000. That works. There we are. We're live on my localhost. Okay. And now I took out the log that has my credentials in it, so you can now see what's going to happen. Let's move this over here. So this is the logs here. This will invoke our function. Cool. Look, so we got a access token back. Yeah, ATD, I'm sure they do. I know, so earlier on the stream, we added a .toml file, which is how they manage their, you can manage configuration, but you don't want to put anything secret in here if you're going to commit it to Git. But yeah, we have a sample app at Fauna, like an integration that we built that works with Zeitz now. And so that I haven't really done too much with it in my free time, but I was doing a little work with it the other day, and by reputation, I know it's very good, but I found it to be pretty cool. Definitely planning on playing around with it. Yeah, so Prince, your function response must have a string body. So it looks like we got the log, and then we got this. I don't know why we're getting a... That's strange, because we're getting data. Let's go back to the code. Yes, sir. So we're returning this data object, but in the examples that we were looking at, some of them do a callback. Let's see. This one does not. It just returns it directly and says, hey, we have an object that has stuff in it. That's what I was thinking, but I didn't think you had to stringify it over the wire. So we're turning this into a string because the error, we don't know what that is. But yeah, do we need to JSON.stringify this? So we turned it into JSON, then we're going to stringify it. Strange. Yep, that was what it was. Yeah. So I can actually remove this data log here. So now this function works. So we now have a function that will call out, based on our environment variables, call out to Twitch and say, hey, we want to make, we want a new access token because we're going to make an API call in the future that's going to use that access token. Cool. So this is if we were to return the data, but if we want to, yeah. But right now, I think if we want to make this function do all of it, if we want to make this, get the new token and make a call to get the data that we need for our little npm package, we don't actually want to return all this. We would want to return the JSON here, and here we would want to return the error essentially. Well, if we error out, we actually don't want to continue any further. So if data.status code equals, we put 418, which I should probably change before I forget. They had 422 in the docs, so let's use that. So if the status code is a 422 and we error it out, we just want to return the data. We don't want to go any further because there's just not, it's because we can't make a request because we don't have a token. So this actually should be commented out as well. And then what we'll do is we'll return the error. And so if we have a bad token, then we'll do essentially what we were doing here. Except it'll be data. And these names are bad, so I will fix them, I promise. Otherwise, else, or I guess, I mean, and we could refactor this into a number of different functions, and we're going to do that. I'm just doing it in the order that the operations happen, and then we'll clean it up probably on another stream. So we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to do Twitch data equals fetch. And then now we need to actually look at our live stream package. Let's open the Git repo. And then we'll look at the code. Yeah, so this is... Yeah, thanks for hanging out, ATD. Yeah, and Dan, thanks so much for gifting a sub. That's dope. So we need to do a similar thing. We're gonna... This is the endpoint we have to request. Let's just drop that in there. And then it looks like the next thing we need is the, where is it? Twitch API URL. And then we need their username. So we'll hard code that right now as my username, but in the future, we'll take that off of the event. And this needs to be a string. And we're also going to need to add some config to this method. This should be a get. I think it's method. Yeah. Get headers. So this is where we're going to need two things. We need an auth header with it, which is this access token that we got back. So we're going to actually want to take that and say, sorry about all these tooltips. I have so much work to do on my setup, like setting up Chrome profiles, setting up VS Code profiles so that they don't have distracting elements for folks. Is it authorization? Yes, it is. And then we want to do data.accessToken because this is the data object that comes in. And so we want to take the access token. But I think we have to do it as a bearer. Let's check the docs. Okay. So this is the auth stuff. This is the authentication just generally. So we know we're getting a token. In the new Twitch API, we need to do this. We need to do bearer. Oh, nice. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good weekend. And tell Violet I said hi. Yeah. Portal's fun. I have not played it enough, just a little bit, but I got to try it out. React portals are also fun if you're into that type of thing. So this is a bearer. So it's actually going to need to be wrapped in backticks, bearer. And then we need to interpolate this value. We also need a client ID. So let's go back to our package because I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's a header as well. And that one is in quotes. Client ID. Let's double check that. Yes. Client ID. And that would be our same thing. We need our Twitch client ID. Cool. Okay. Okay, let's see if this works. Oh, is it because I didn't return anything. Yeah, so in this case, we have Twitch data and oh yeah, so this data.status code, okay. Here, I'm gonna take this out because I'm not sure that that's not causing the problem. Yeah, so I do need to return something. So we want to do return Twitch data. I'm just going to do this for now. Comment this out and comment this out. I just want to make sure that these requests are working, and then next time we'll handle some of the stuff. Cool. So return an empty object. So Prince, it's interesting because they're in their docs they use async, which I believe is also ES6, but the destructuring wasn't working. But that might have also been a part of the end file. Yeah. Yes, I sure am. Yeah. It's always the little things. A valid client ID or OAuth token. Okay. See, I need to wait for this to resolve before I can do that. Prince, at some point we might need to do that. I'm probably not going to hang out too much longer. It's getting hungry, but yeah, over this weekend I might be back on, so I would definitely take you up on that. Let's go back to the auth docs real quick. Oh, you mean call this inside of here once we have that value? So basically, yeah. Basically, I think I need to abstract this. Actually, I don't think I need that. I might need that. Let's check. So here, we have the JSON. And so we'll say access or token equals JSON.access token. Okay. Then we want to pass that token here. Okay. Get the Twitch info. Get Twitch data. We'll pass it our token. Sorry. And then we should be able to log that out. Let's see, Prince. Yeah, I don't have a response. That's right. Yeah, it will, and then I guess I'll have to dot then that as well, and then in there return and return. So basically, I would have to, yeah. Yeah, yeah, okay, that's right. And it would be this, right? We would actually need to do this, and then dot then. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, I got you. So you're saying just like return the promise, then do another dot then. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was looking at some like async stuff today, and it's like sometimes I confuse myself quite a bit, and between promises and the async await, like I definitely, it's one of the things that gets me every time. Must provide a valid. Okay, so it looks like we're making the request properly. Just the issue that is happening right now is I think the token we're getting and the authentication stuff we're doing, we might need like a different secret, or maybe I need to update the ID. So there's a little bit of research I think I need to do here for the Twitch flow generally. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to call it a day. We got some stuff done. We now have a serverless function folder that works, and we're able to invoke stuff locally. We're making calls to the Twitch API, which is good. We're not getting back quite what we want, but as you can tell, we're actually getting close. So let me do a little bit of research, and we'll come back maybe over the weekend, maybe early next week, and we'll finish this off. But for today, as usual, I'm Ryan. So thanks for hanging out in the chat. Prince, thanks for all the help. Dan, thank you for the first gift sub. Appreciate that. And as usual, I'm here on Fridays at 5. Might be changing that up in the near future just to give some other time slots a try. But as usual, I'm Ryan. I work at Fauna. This is me on the web. You can find all my stuff here and my latest articles about hooks. I have one coming in the next couple days about use callback, which will sort of build upon use memo. And hopefully soon I'll also be building out some video content to go along with all of these articles. So you can read about the hook and you can watch me use it. And since I'll be able to edit that video, it won't be like some of the streams where we don't get that much done, but all a learning experience. So as usual, cheers to the weekend. Happy Friday. Stay safe out there. Take care of everyone. Be kind. You know, this is a crazy time. So I guess as per usual, take a drink. Cheers to you. Peace. See you next week.